Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the first official episode of Outside the Net. I'm your host, Brady Nickel, and in this video, we're going to be breaking down the North Georgia X-Ball League Episode 3 layout. It's happening June 7th through the 8th at Bear Ridge Paintball. So, if you guys are playing in that tournament, this is the video for you. So we're not going to waste too much time, but I do want to say, guys, if you're enjoying this content, please like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel. It helps out me as a creator, and it just shows me how I'm doing. Now, let's get a look at this overhead, and we'll see kind of what we're working with for this layout. Now, one thing we're going to do is we're going to break into the snake, the center, and the Doritos individually. And I want to get this overhead look just to kind of see what we're working with. So we got the traditional ladder snake, and we don't have much tape control, but it's better than some of the layouts we've seen recently. I do like that. We also have a pretty chaotic center structure going on here. It looks a little bit open in the center. Looks like we might see some pretty cool moves happen. And then they've given us the Snakerito, this Dorito snake structure up at the top 50 of the layout. So let me know how you guys feel about Snakeritos. I'm not personally a fan of them, but some people are. You know, these larger bricks do make it quite a bit easier to make it up to that 50 and get into some trouble, stir up some chaos up there. So that's what we got going on. I do think that this might be more of a balanced field. Just looking at the overall top-down view, looks like it's going to be a pretty balanced field. So that's another plus. We oftentimes see the snake is way OP, the Doritos are OP, usually the snake, but usually it's one side or the other, right? But we seldomly see the whole field is anywhere you go is good. So let's just go ahead and dive into the snake. Let's see if we can get down here. So, I mean, there's a lot going on in this center for sure. Snake corner looks like it might be troublesome to get out to, and Dorito corner as well. Of course, these first bunkers, this can and the little Aztec, I don't think you're going to have any trouble getting to because of all of this blocking you out from the center. So let's just take a look at the snake site and see what we have available for the breakout. It looks like as you're moving up to this can, you may be able to target your mirror if they are sending a deep snake runner. You might be able to get that shot in there. So shooting through that gap, and I mean, you can always shoot your mirror as well as you're moving up to this bunker. Most people, when they're moving to a bunker that is kind of in this zone, instead of going diagonally, let's see if I can, I don't know how I did that before. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, there we go. Instead of going diagonally to that bunker, they'll set up on this outside of the box, and they will take a straight approach over and then up. So something to consider, you get yourself behind the cover much quicker when you come straight out like that and then move up versus the time it takes to get to here. All my math nerds out there, notice this. It's the Pythagorean theorem. And this distance is much shorter than that distance. So, again, something to think about as you're moving down this line. We're going to be taking a look. And if I can zoom in to that map up here, you can kind of get you a little bit of an overhead. So we're talking moving down here and shooting this gap here, which is inevitably through there. Okay. A lot of rambles going on there. Now, once we get to this snake can, otherwise known as the money, I'm like glitching out on the screen. My arm is super weird. Okay. We do have eyes over here on what looks like Delta. So that would be the Delta across there. So you may want to consider switching your gun to that side for a moment. I wouldn't put all my money in that area on the Delta. You can't really see a whole lot either going into this kind of Dorito 50 structure. So let's take a look down the outside. Yeah, I mean, most of your play, if you're playing this can, is going to be focused in this zone here. Obviously, you have your mirror. If they are playing inside, that you can wrap on the outside a little bit. And maybe even have that zone there. But you will have to be very weary of this zone through here, because if their snake is pushing down that ladder, you better be ready for him to pop out at any one of those locations. Snake 1, 2, or 3 at any time. Okay, let's take a look at the god. All right, so if we're wrapping on the outside, obviously you have your mirror. We have the grit tower, which is going to be the snake side tower. And then you got money. Excuse me, no, that's going to be Cobra on the outside. And then looking on the inside, you have the turret, or D1. We'll call it D1 for this case. D1. You have the Dorito 50, or that Snakerito. And then you have some shots, some options on these inside wedges here. Doesn't look to be a very good containment spot, so I don't think I'm going to stick here for long before I push into the snake 1. And actually, I like these little wedges in the snake. I don't know that I like them at the head of the snake, but we'll see how it goes. Yeah, very straight up ladder snake. Everything is perfectly in line. So if somebody's on the outside tape, you have to be very cautious when you're making those moves into the next zone. So you have to, not only do you have to watch this area, you have to watch everything that's happening over here. Did it again. I think my tie's falling down. It's not even a tie, it's my headband. I thought it looked good though. All right, so moving into snake 2. Get our first real look on the D side. Capturing this zone through here. And then you have a little bit of movement you could catch over there on the D50 zone. and then you have delta on the inside. So decent looks for S2. As always, you don't get a lot. You gotta take that risk to be rewarded. So push into snake 3 is when things start to open up for us. So if you can get here early, catch somebody sleeping in the delta, this little Aztec, or even if somebody taking a slow center push up to that little W, or hey, you got the mini wedge, the Donna, over there on the D side, and the Dorito. Yeah, I mean S3 is looking pretty good. And then if you wanted to get a little crazy, get swifty, you can move on into their snake 3, your snake 4 if you'd call it. And now you're going to have backs and packs all day. So the snake is pretty damn good, not going to lie. Let's get into it from the Cobra. Let's see what we're looking like. Some of you tall guys might like these, playing them over the top. I am, nah, I don't know. It's back and forth for me. Let's see. I mean, hey, Cobra doesn't look terrible. I mean, obviously you have your mirror. You can see all the way over the top of the snake, so you can run some containment. However, there is kind of a wall, per se, of where you can't actually hit anything in this snake, and it's about right there. So if they're low, moving quick, they can make their moves no problem. We may see some other bunkers that can do more containment out here in the middle of the field, but you don't have a lot of containment unless they're getting crazy on the other side and popping the top, catching one over here. What I think this may be best case, is that you contain their support. You keep them dialed back so that they are kind of in a tizzy, I guess you could say. You put so much pressure on them that whoever's in this snake has no idea what's going on from behind them, and keep them from progressing in the snake as well. You do have some shots over here on like the GRT tower and the money god, this area. So it's not dead weight, right? This is not a bad bunker to be in. So something to consider. And you can see quite a bit going on here in the center too. So yeah, I mean, if you the risk for getting out here may be worth it if you play it with the right mindset. That you're not, I don't think you're trying to target their snake. You're trying to keep the chaos in the back and make them get lost in the snake while your attacker gets down and dirty and does work to get in there. So if that's the case, then you might put enough pressure on them that their snake attacker spends most his time on the outside, which leaves opportunity in the middle, right? If he's not looking inside the field, then that's just one less gun that is a major threat pushing down the outside of the tape, outside of the field. So that does open up opportunity for a middle push. So be on the lookout for that. Now, that's pretty much the snake. It's straightforward. There's not a lot going on with it. I do like these ladder snakes. I think they're a lot easier to navigate than some of these other crazy structures that we've seen recently. Okay, so let's take a look at the overhead for a snake. Cobra is... Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. Now, Cobra is going to be a challenge to get to, but it is rewarding. You can play over the top of the snake and kind of keep containment on their Cobra. Which is just going to cause a bunch of chaos in that back. Their attacker's not going to have the support that they need unless they're a really good number 2. And so what that does is it makes their snake get lost. They don't know what's happening because their support is getting blundered with paint. You can also look cross and put some eyes over there. However, I don't recommend that just because it's such a long shot, and if you have split seconds to make those shots, and if you miss them, they're done. So do not dwell on the inside of the field here. And I won't say just the inside. I'll say from kind of this zone this way is where your focus needs to be primarily. Now both of these bunkers, you're gonna want to stay on this side of the field as well. You do have a couple shots cross, but this center kind of takes up most of that, so you don't have anything other than blind shots. And then as we progress into the snake, snake 3 or the Viper, this zone right here is going to be where you want to get to. Snake 3 has really good shots on the Doritos and the center of the field, so make your push to Snake 3 as fast as possible. If ideally, and we could talk about this more at the end, I think I'm going to put a body here and here and here. Well, let's see here. That's 3 bodies in the center. I would say here or here, so make a decision on that. You have your front Dorito player, and they're probably, we're going to see them going to the D3 on the breakout. And, well, we haven't even looked at that, so we'll look at that. But you get a guy in this tower, he's running containment on the snake, and then you put a guy out here wide that he's putting pressure on the Cobra, and this guy as well can put pressure on the Cobra, so we're focusing a lot of paint into that area, which allows your snake attacker to wiggle his way into the snake 3 and even into the snake 4. I mean, these ladder snakes, you can go as far as you can go. The only thing to contest him is going to be the grit tower. So as he's making his way through here, he needs to check this tower off. Oh. He needs to check this tower off every time. And then be cautious as he moves up, because shots will open up, but he just needs to make it, while he makes that transition, wrap, check him off, and then go. All right, so that's the snake. Now we're going to move into the center of the field and see what we can't come up with. Now, let's go ahead and move on to the center of the field, because this is what I'm actually most excited about for this layout. The center looks pretty fun. Now, we've got a can for the home bunker, which is fine, but these cans are hard to live in. So if you're trying to survive in this bunker for more than a couple minutes, just don't attempt it. Because as the game progresses and their snake starts to push down this way and their Doritos start to push down this way, and if you're losing bodies on either side of the field, you're gonna be in some trouble. Once they get probably here, you're susceptible to be shot. And I would, well, let's just take a look at it. Just bounce our way over here to the 50. So on their side of the large brick, you're open to be shot in the pack or in the front. Now let's just take a step back and D3 or D4, I guess that is. You're open to be shot. I think this is D2. You're open to be shot. So the point is that these cans in the back don't offer a lot of cover. So you don't want to live inside these bunkers. Now you might be able to put a lot of pressure on your mirror from here. Maybe even taking a knee and kind of shooting over the top of these mini W's on either side, hoping to catch somebody slipping over there. And you might be able to catch somebody going through a lane over there on D1 and 2. Otherwise, though, I don't think I want to stay at this bunker. I do want to look at this grit tower, though, because usually these types of towers offer the most general cover, and also are your main kind of threat in the snake for dropping your balls over the top of the snake. And that's kind of what it's looking like here. So we got that. I think I like the squares better instead of the crosses. Let's see. We got that zone there between snake 2 and 3. We got the zone between snake 1 and 2. You got checks on God. Sorry, that's Cobra on the inside. And you might, this is up for debate, might even catch a barrel on the outside of Cobra. So the GRT tower looks pretty good. Let's get a wrapping shot. Now, if you are in a position where you're able to wrap this tower, you do have the outside of money. You have shots on God to look at. I don't think you're going to be wrapping if there's anybody in those bunkers, but hey, you do you, boo-boo. You do have the opposite side tower, the D side tower, and you got these wedges to look out for on the inside. So let's get a little zoom in look there on that. I believe there's going to be a lot of chaos happening up here in the center of this field. Whoa, I don't know what just happened. Got very skippy all of a sudden. Now, what I see happening pretty early on, maybe even the first point. Let's just take a step back here and take a look at this. I see this play. So somebody set up here on the start box. They go from here to here and dive in. That seems pretty reasonable. Seems pretty common. It seems like a pretty easy play to make. Now, where do we go from there? Because I do think you have some options. Now, a lot of people like these mini W's because they have this nipple on the top that allows you to stand up and play on either side of that nipple. So you got a little bit of a height advantage, but you're also somewhat protected. So if you do find yourself in this bunker, it looks like you have the inside of the grit tower as an option to look out for. You have home on the outside primarily to look at. Other than that, though, I mean, let's look at this option. This could be an opportunity to set up a trap on this guy. The guy that's going to take the brick early in the game. Because if you can get there in the first 5 seconds of the match and post up on this zone and just wait it out. Wait it out and see if he makes his way into that large brick. And I bet you will get a kill. However, I would be putting somebody on that zone. So if they see movement there and if you even see movement there and he's just not coming up there, maybe you see this brick bouncing around but no movement, he's probably working his way around to that little 50 where that cake is. So keep your eyes peeled. You don't want to be the one that sets up that trap and then gets caught slipping. Okay, now where do we move from here? I don't understand the tubes here. I guess if you find yourself in a position that you've locked off one side of the field. So let's say you've completely dominated the snake side from the center. And now you have a couple bodies over here. Yeah, I could see that working. I could see you maybe making a push around this wedge into this little center snake. But at the same turn, I don't know. I'm not a fan of that. Do think it looks cool. But I am curious to see how those are going to be played. All right, now let's look at the snake side wedge. Now, if you're standing in this wedge, if you're taking on this wedge, you also have a shot at this 50 brick on the D side. And you got some looks at their other wedge. A lot of people like to play this angle. So you may find somebody in there, set up a trap. Corner to corner. Take a look on the outside. Now, if you get here early and take that risk to get that reward, this is a reward. Nobody's crossing that path. So if you set up a trap early on, this is definitely an opportunity to lock down the snake and give yourself some real momentum. Because here's the thing, if they can't get through that gap, a couple things are going to happen. One, you either get the kill in that zone, or two, they look inside and you're prepared to get the kill here. Most people get bored pretty easy. I doubt anybody's going to want to sit in snake one. But at the same time, you got to be quick to get here. So it's high risk for a high reward. You lock down the snake, that gives your snake an opportunity to make that push and get down to their side of the field. Especially with these closed off ladder snakes, there's no opportunity to get really shot across field unless your guy is slipping up. And if we're back into the Snake 1, this grit tower is really your only opposition. So as long as you go into it understanding that, you should be okay. I can work my controls. So just remember that snake side tower is your real opposition when you're in the snake here. Second to your mirror pushing down the snake. But if you can lock him off and then lock off this grit tower, the snake side tower, you're going to be just fine. I do that every time. I don't know what the problem is. Okay, so now we got to move over to this D side of the center. This is going to be a long video. They usually are. I'm getting a little shorter, though, about 15 minutes per section. Now, where did we leave off? We were talking about this. Well, now let's back up. We need to go to this D side tower. Or I guess we're still kind of, I don't know, center D side. We'll call it the center zone. Now, this is a pretty good spot to be in if you're trying to keep some control on the Doritos. Let's see if I can switch back to yellow. I like yellow better. Yeah, if we're trying to keep some control on the Doritos, this is not a bad spot to be. You will be put up to some gunfights, however, so keep that in mind. If you're not a strong gunfighter, this is not the bunker for you. Now you can get some shots on the inside of money. So this is a bunker to be cautious of if you are playing that snake side can. So if you're playing that bunker, then I would definitely be cautious of this D side tower because again, those cans are not the easiest bunkers to live in. Just their round shape makes you easier to. I don't know what it is. You're easier to be shot in those cans. So just keep that in mind. And this actually something to look at. Maybe a bounce shot from that snake side tower into that can. So. For you guys that love those bounce shots, that is an opportunity. Let's see, if you wrap on the outside, you do have the Delta, this little Aztec, in your sights, and you also have the outside of this large brick. So we were talking about that little W setting a trap there. And then having somebody that can watch the outside of that 50 to make sure he doesn't wrap as he comes through. This is the guy. This is where you want that control, that containment on the outside of that Dorito 50 to make sure that whichever way he decides to go, there's a gun on him. Okay, now move up to the Dorito wedge, and it's kind of the same thing as the Dorito tower. We're just closer. I don't think you're gonna have to have as many gunfights per se, as much as maybe snap battles. You find out where the body is, get your snap out, put your ball on target, and walk away with the dub. Did it again. Now we take a look on the inside of this bunker. Some people are really good at jumping over the top of these things and putting their ball exactly where they want it. So check that out too. All right, playing the wedge side of this Donna. D-side wedge. Cobra is susceptible to be shot from here. You have the money. You have the God. you have S2 and S3. So keep that in mind. There is some shots from the snake into this bunker, so if you're not paying attention, watch your pack. So that's pretty much the center, guys. I think we need to start like a rating system on these. I'm gonna give this center an 8, just because it's the first one, and I liked it. I do think that this bunker here is the best for containment on the snake, being able to drop shots into S1 and S2 and watch those gaps. As an early breakout bunker, I think you got this spot here if you want to set a trap on their Dorito brick. And then I think the tower here has the best gun paddling positions for the Doritos, as well as keeping an eye out on that wrap on the 50. I didn't even think we looked at this little apple, but we'll go over it when we go into the D side. The wedges looked pretty decent. I mean, you kind of had the same thing going on here, except you're a little bit lower. Now this was the shot here that is really easy to contain as well, but it's a late game push. I guess it doesn't have to be a late game push, but you got to get there, and you got to get there alive. So if you can make that push and make it in there, that's a very rewarding bunker to be in the center early game here. And again, guys, keep in mind these back bunkers. Yeah, you may have some shots early on, but there's not a lot, and they definitely, you get what you earn if you stay in this bunker through the late game. Get out of these back center bunkers. Really, the only shots that you have are heads up on your mirror and that gap there. But that's from the start box. All right, so that was the center of the field. Now we're going to jump over the D side. Let's just start back at the start box, and let's take this Delta, the Mini Aztec, as our first primary. And again, this move here, straight out and straight up, is going to be your best friend. You don't want to make this angular motion. Even a quick knee slide out here, or guns up, either one, but the faster you can get out wide and then move up, you're going to be much better off. Because from here, you can roll your gun as you're walking up to that bunker. So let's get into it. If we're looking here on the breakout, this whole area is open. So if they have a Dorito runner and you're containing this zone, they're going to be in trouble. So you're looking at that zone right there. I think your main contestant is going to be probably the home. Whoa, that was weird. Interesting. Yeah, your main contestant's going to be that home bunker back there. Possibly the Delta or the Money. I would see them more on the snake side focused. But you got to keep those zones in mind as well. So if we are pushing out wide, like we say, we block out that home with this tower. Yeah, the home, we block out the home with that tower there. And then we push up. And so I would try a couple different things here, I think. I think I would focus my gun over the top here. Probably more this side, but it depends. If they're not moving out wide fast, then maybe stick with this area, shoot your mirror, shoot back at this tower. And then if you're just not able to get your shots in there, then this is another alternative to look at too as you're moving up. Now, this may be a possible route to get into the Dorito. So if you want to send your Dorito attacker here on the breakout, and then he's looking for his move to get into this D3, this may be an option for you. So you'd have to check off that D3 there, and I don't think that anybody's going to beat you there unless they are fast and you're just not on your lanes. So that would be one spot to check off. Otherwise, it's going to be your mirror that you'd have to check off, put them in, make your move, or this tall tower. Before we make that move, though, we're going to look out here at the Dorito corner and see what options are here and what can target this zone. Now, something to be weary of here is probably somebody taking a knee at the home on the breakout and shooting this zone. My tie keeps falling off. I've got to get a real tie. There, that looks better. Yeah, I would keep that in mind. People oftentimes they like to sit at the home bunker and just hold down a lane for a few seconds before they break out. So if you're trying to get here on the breakout, somebody's probably going to be shooting from that zone there. And so this is an opportunity to talk about reading paint on the field. Now, it's very hard to do, but once you figure it out, it is a very high level skill to have, is reading paint and where it's coming from. Sometimes you just can't see it, but oftentimes these back lanes, these farther out lanes, you can see the paint hitting the field. Or if you are paying attention, if paint's hitting that bunker there, you know somebody's already on that lane. But definitely try to read that paint as it's coming into that zone, and you'll know if somebody is targeting that. Ugh, does it every time. Somebody's targeting that, you know, either you have to go in low, you have to go in wide, or you have to change your route mid-run and maybe even go to entirely different bunker based on where they are holding you back from. Now this bunker does have tape control, so if you can get out here and survive the breakout, you do have this whole zone to watch on the outside of the field. Okay, now let's go ahead and take a look at D. Yeah, let's take a look at D2, and then we'll go D3, and then the apple. So D2 is the baby Dorito. It's the smaller ones. If you've heard me talk about these, you know I hate them because they are so small. I'm a big guy. Some people love these things, but not I. You do have shots on the home. You have shots on the Dorito side tower. You have the outside of this Dorito side's wedge, the Donna. And looks like you have maybe a shot on S2. I wouldn't count on that shot. That is a long shot to have, and you have to remember that you have to survive in this bunker. So maybe put a few balls there. If you hear that call, Snake 2, then definitely put your gun there. Otherwise, you're probably going to be looking to make a bump into the Snake 4 from here, or the Snake 3. Primarily, I'd say probably the Snake 4 getting out here. All right, let's take a look at Snake 3 now. Okay, here we have that snake or D-side tower. You have maybe, I don't know that this is a possibility, maybe a blind shot over the top of the large brick here. But here's what I like about this large brick is that if you can find an opportunity to put this tower in, or this little Aztec, or even this guy, put them in, you have this whole zone here to work with. Now you have to stay low, you have to be fast. Oh, shot way over to the side there. But there is an opportunity to make a move either into the Dorito 4 or straight into that Dorito 50 structure. Now this takes a lot of communication with the rest of your squad on understanding where the bodies are on the other side of the field to make a big bump like that. So keep that in mind. There's opportunity to move out here or even into that 50 with the understanding of where the other bodies are on the field. It's kind of why we do these walkthroughs, when we walk the field and want to know where all the pressures come from, is so that when we hear these calls, when we know where the other bodies are on the field, we paint that picture, as Tyler Harmon likes to say a lot. We paint the perfect picture of what's happening on the other side of the field so that we can visualize what moves are available to us and at what times, and we take those opportunities and capitalize on them. Now, I think we totally just skipped over the D3, but on the inside, we have, move down just a little bit. On the inside, we have the Dorito side tower. We have the Delta, the little mini Aztec, and we have D3, our mirror, to look at. I don't think you're going to see anybody wrapping on the inside of that Dorito 50, so I wouldn't even count that as an option, but who knows? Ooh, now this is interesting. See if I can zoom in here just a little bit. Let's see. So this is the gap at the 50. Now, I don't know that this would ever happen, but it may, and it's open, is a shot over this mini W in the center. So there is a gap there. This here is also Cobra way back there. Let's see, zoom in on that. So that is Cobra and the God. So you do have some shots for, oh my God. That scared the crap out of me. Y'all didn't hear it, but there's a noise that just played in my ear. Big beep. You have this shot over the God and into the Cobra through the 50. So if you can get to D3, that's not a bad spot to be in either. Okay, moving into the Dorito Mini W. Looks like there's some opportunities here on the D3. The Mini Aztec outside of the Dorito Tower. God, if you're feeling froggy, and Cobra. And then, of course, this inside of this Sierra, the Snake Wedge. Okay, we move on to D4. Now, D4 is looking pretty good. You can catch somebody in this snake side wedge. Now, if you are not familiar with this concept of moving up the field, I just want to share this with you. So here's the concept. When you're going to make a move from one bunker to the next, pushing down the tape, the last thing you want to do is have your eyes on your landing zone. For one reason. You are probably going to miss a move in one area or another. So with that in mind, when you go to make a push, you want to wrap on the outside and check off this zone. Make sure that there's nobody heads up looking at you. And then we're going to wrap on the inside. And make sure nobody's looking at you here. And then once you are clear, once you're able, once you know that there's no guns on you, make your move. So it's snap, wrap, and go. If you can follow that philosophy, you're going to survive more times than not making these moves. Never, and I repeat, never have your eyes on your landing zone. And always keep your gun up when you're making your moves. Now, with that said, let's take a final look at this Dorito 50 and see what we have in play. So Detroit is what I'm calling this large brick. You have Snake 1. You got eyes on, and then that gap between Snake 1 and Snake 2. You have the Grit Tower, which is our snake side tower. You have the outside of this Donna, this Dorito side wedge here. Then you have the D side tower and the home. So if you can make a fast push up here from the break, you got a lot of options. Be very cautious of this zone right here. These are the two bunkers that we talked about from the center that can set up a trap on you. Let's take a look on the outside. And if you can get through some gun battles here, I have a feeling there's going to be quite a few. You can make your way into this Snakerito, this D-side snake, and let's see what we got out here. Yeah. So this, we talked about this D-side tower. This is really your biggest threat other than somebody directly in front of you on the tape. This guy can stop you from making this push. But if you can outgun battle that guy and get him off the field, then you should be free and clear to make your move to their side of the field. And I would probably, unless you've wiped this whole side of the field, if you know where they are, fine. If you don't, I would crawl. I would just crawl my way to this other side, get up, get on your feet, find that last body, and then push to their side and take the point. All right, so that is the D side. I think the theory that I made at the beginning that this is a balanced field, I think it is. After looking at all three zones, I feel pretty good going anywhere on the field. So let's just a quick recap of what we talked about. We talked about for this mini Aztec, the Delta, making a push out wide and rolling our guns as we move up, targeting this zone through here, and possibly even this snake gap. So that's a couple different options as you move up into that bunker before making a push out wide. So if you get here, if you can't make it out wide off the break, coming here, locking off a zone, and finding where the paint is coming through before you make a push out wide. Alternatively, coming up through this zone to get into the D3 or through the center. But you have to watch this push from the Aztec. So our target bunker here is going to be either getting to D4 or to D3, eventually making your push into this 50. From the D4, you have the shots on the Snakeside Tower and the Delta, the Snakeside Can. You have the home as an option. And then you have some shots through the center towards the snake, as well as shots down the tape. Keep doing that. As well as shots down the tape. So you have quite a few options there. But for aggression, you're going to get to that D4 as fast as possible. And for the D3, you have some heads-up abilities shooting down the D side. You don't have as many options on the tape, of course, but as a secondary move, you can get to that D3. So there is the NGXL, North Georgia X-Ball League Episode 3 layout. I hope you guys found this useful. Let me know your thoughts on this layout. I think it's going to be a balanced field. I think we're going to see a lot of chaos come from the center of the field, and I think this layout rewards risk-taking. So hold your lanes down. Make sure you guys practice all of these shots that we talked about. Look for the blind shots, look for bounce shots, look for any advantage that you can take early in the game. And remember, when you guys are communicating with your squad, the goal is to paint the perfect picture of what's happening on the other side of the field. If you can do that and keep your communication tight and consistent, you're going to have a good tournament. So that is it for this layout. Let me know what you guys think about it. Well, that's going to do it for this first episode of Outside the Net, guys. North Georgia X-Ball League happening June 7th to the 8th at Bear Ridge Paintball. So if you guys are playing that league, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Leave this video a like if this helped you prepare for practice going into this weekend. We don't get to cover absolutely everything, but I hope this gave you some ideas, some things to look forward to in practice, things to try out, and kind of confirm these hypotheses that we made as we walked this layout. And as well, if you have a tournament coming up, please let me know. You can find me on Instagram. You can shoot me a message here, over on TikTok. Really anywhere you can find us at GRT Paintball. You can shoot us a message. We'll get your layout on the list, and we are trying to cover all the major events that are happening throughout the year. So some of them we miss, some of them takes a little bit longer. This one was requested, and I was able to get a bunker set out pretty quick this week and get this one up for you guys. So with that being said, for Outside the Net, I am Brady Nickel, and I will see you guys in the next one.